Welcome to another edition of the Unsexy Businessmen podcast, where we talk about everything entrepreneurship and unsexy businesses. I am Alex Skinner. As always, I am joined by my brother Aaron Skinner. And today we're going to be chatting about ho, 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 it's 1984 or 85,
85.
whatever dad's saying. We're going to talk about the holidays. Managing a business, managing employees, managing inventory, managing clients, all things holiday related. Because obviously you probably have a lot going on just managing your business. And then two, you probably want to enjoy the holidays just a little bit. So Aaron, in your experience, we'll just start off general here. Like, what was running an unsexy business like during the holidays?
It was very interesting. Well, especially when I did not have employees, it wasn't as big of a deal because I was willing to make that sacrifice to work during the holidays. I mean, I never had to work on like Christmas or Thanksgiving. No one was calling me and having me do a cleaning on those days. And when we had commercial clients, they were closed during those days as well. But dealing with employees was difficult because, people want to go out of town, they want time off, and I totally get that. I understand you want to enjoy the holidays as well. And so we would try and preemptively avoid issues by, letting people know, hey, these are the days you're going to need to work. Are you able to work them? And if there were issues, we would solve those like way before the holidays came up, like several weeks before. So if there was an employee that needed time off because they're going out of town for Thanksgiving or Christmas, we made sure it was covered. We didn't really run into too many issues. Luckily, most people just stayed in town and they wanted money anyway. And so it wasn't a big deal. But we did run into people like, hey, I need this time off. So it's just being prepared like you should be with your business. It was just making sure it was very organized, helped us with making sure that all the businesses that we were doing were covered during those times. I actually love the holidays were great. You can make a lot of money during the holidays.
Did you have like shift charts?
Yes. Yeah. So everybody knew what their schedule was a couple weeks in advance. And so we would be asking people in like September, hey, you going out of town? Do you want time off? And it was all based on seniority, if, who got those shifts off. I'm sure, I can't think of a specific example, but I'm sure there were times where we had to like last second make a cover here or there. But my thing was like, if I'm the business owner, so if there's a gap somewhere, I'm just going to go do that cleaning. And that did not happen very often because I definitely would remember that. But I was willing to fill in if need be. But yeah, we just made sure just well in advance we knew what those schedules were.
So then were most of your issues like employee related, not a whole lot of customer related?
No, because most of the customers, especially in commercial buildings, they would tell us in advance, too, like, hey, we're closed these days. And the nice thing about it, a lot of those businesses were closed for like, 2 or 3 days, either before or after. And so it made it easy. I mean, I guess that's another benefit of doing a cleaning business or doing commercial jobs is a lot of those people are dealing with literally the exact same thing you're dealing with as a business. They have employees, they want to have time off. And so a lot of those businesses would be closed. And so it was nice that we could be like, hey, good news. That building that you normally clean every night, you have 2 or 3 nights off. And and so the nice thing about that too is if somebody wanted hours and their hours were taken away because that business was closed for those days, I'm like, hey, you looking for hours? Ask, I know Jenny wants some time off, cover her shift and you have your hours. So it's just being really organized. So finding out what everybody needs as far as time off, and then just kind of shifting people around depending on the amount of hours that they want or don't want.
What did staff appreciation look like? It sounds like most of this is employee related, less client related, but like any special things that you're doing during the holidays for employees?
Sure. Yeah, no, we always did a Christmas party. And that's when we did a ton of recognition. We'd give out everyone got prizes of some sort, whether it be, if we hired someone like 2 weeks before the Christmas party, obviously we're not giving them a giant paycheck. But we'd always do a Christmas party, and we'd come up with kind of like unique, funny, like gifts that we'd give, not even gifts, but like we would recognize everyone and it would be specific to them, some sort of like trophy or certificate, just to
Like
keep
the
it lighthearted.
Dundies, but
Yes,
less
exactly. Kind
offensive.
of like yes, like the Dundies, except for more HR compliant. And we just had a good time. I mean, it's another way that you can build a good atmosphere in your business. They would come, we'd tell them, bring your families, bring not whoever you want. I didn't want 1,000 people there, but you can bring your family. And so the family would be there, and we'd recognize them in front of their family, and people loved it. We would get employees that left for whatever reason. A lot of them had to move or whatever, and sometimes I just remember getting a text message from one of my old employees. She moved to a different state, and she, during the next Christmas season, she's like, I really miss your Christmas parties. They were really fun. The place I'm working for sucks. They don't do anything. So it's little things like that that make your employees way more loyal to you, and it just builds that culture within your company. So yeah, we would always do that. And so for our like managers and supervisors, we wouldn't do this part in front of everybody. Maybe I guess we could have, but we would always give them like cash bonuses. So if we had a manager that had been with us for a certain threshold of time, I think the manager that got the most, we give them like $5,000. Like if you have like a manager or supervisor that makes your life so much easier, $5,000 when you're doing well as a business is nothing. The amount of time that manager saved us throughout the year, I wish I could have given her $100,000. Like, she was awesome. So that's just not. And then again, she didn't want to leave because she wasn't going to go work for somewhere that was going to just get her $5,000 cash. And the thing about that too is, if like any sort of like tax repercussions from that, we incurred all that. So I didn't want to be like, here's a check for $5,000.
Here's $3,200.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we always made sure we took care of the taxes. That money is the money you're getting is the money that you get to keep. So they really like that. And that manager and most of the supervisors didn't leave because they knew that bonus was coming.
So how would you decide, like, all of this, like financial, obviously the bonuses are money, but also Christmas parties, prizes, all of this stuff costs money. How would you go
Sure.
about strategizing, like, this is how much we're going to spend this year? Or was it just like you got to a point where it's like, who fucking cares? Like, this is nothing.
No, yeah. So, I mean, it obviously all depends on your finances. And that's one of the things, like making sure you're staying on top of your finances, your cash flow, everything. We would just set money aside. Like, I'd set money aside, and that I knew so we would do a Christmas party and a 4th of July party. It wasn't always on the 4th of July because I realized some people want to go do their own thing. And so it'd usually be like the day before or the day after, whatever it was. Sometime in July, we would do like a summer party where we would do the same thing. We'd give the cash prizes or bonuses for our supervisors weren't as high, but they're still getting $1,000 or whatever it is. And so as the company grew, those cash prizes got bigger and bigger. So in the beginning, it was like $500. And then once our business kept growing and growing and growing, I would just add to that. And so we got to a point where I knew, okay, I can afford to do, $30,000 or $40,000 total of, paying for all the food, paying for all the prizes, all the bonuses and things like that. But that's what you should do as a business. Like, that's what I hate about a lot of these corporate jobs, is not sharing the wealth. Like, if my company's doing good and without my employees, I wouldn't be able to grow. So I need my employees. So I want to incentivize them as much as possible to stick around, to stay motivated. And money is one of those big things. I mean, that's what people really want, especially during the holidays. They want that money. And if they know it's coming, they're not going anywhere, and they're just going to keep doing a good job. And yeah, so that as the business grows, those bonuses should grow as well.
Yeah, there's nothing like telling an employee that they're capped. Like, all right, cool.
Yes.
Like, we've talked about this before. We're like, obviously, like,
Yes.
there is an inevitable cap where it's like, but if your business continues to grow, they can grow along with it. So for example, if
Yep.
you're doing $1 million revenue every single year, it's like, well, we're capped because we're at this million. But if you go from 1 million to 2 million, like, all right, there's a little room for you to grow. A friend
Yes.
of mine recently left the company that he was at because they told him, you will never make more than this amount of money. He's like, it's almost like it's literally that example from The Office where they cap the amount of I forget what
Sales,
that word
like
is.
the
It's sales
commissions.
commission. They cap the amount of commission, and then Jim's just like, so I have no incentive to make any more sales because I've already made the maximum amount I can for the year, and then people walk away. So like, it's kind of an
Or
interesting thing. Like this is like human psychology, where it's just like, who doesn't want to grow? Like evolution, not to like get like super scientific. I'm not a scientist, but like evolution is all about progressing from one thing to the next thing and getting better and better and better. Why businesses don't understand that there has to be some way for somebody to grow just blows my mind.
yeah, not just leaving, but not working hard anymore. Like your friend, like if you get to that certain threshold, we're like, okay, well, I know I can't make any more than this in bonuses. I'm not going to work harder. Like,
Deuces.
why? Why keep doing sales? I saw that in the business or the company that I worked for before I started my business. It was like, yep, you're capped right here. I'm like, I'll never understand that. I like just completely demotivates. That's a word, right? Demotivates, unmotivates.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not a scientist. It's like it just the motivation is completely gone when you tell like, all right, because once they reach that goal, why keep doing sales or why keep doing that? We never capped any of those things. Like if I had an employee that could go out and get us new business, I wasn't like, okay, well, we'll only give you up to $5,000 or $10,000 worth of those sales. No, keep going. Like, I'll give you as much money as you're bringing in, like whatever percentage that is, I'll give it to you forever. And so it is a weird thing. So we never did that. As we grew, we gave more money every year. And it's just like, because you want to be able to celebrate those successes. Again, you want to be able to, I'll finish that. You want to be able to celebrate those successes with the people that got you there. And again, what I was saying is like, you wouldn't be there if you didn't have good employees helping you throughout that process. And so why not reward them? Dude, it's so weird to me that companies don't do that. I don't know why, but
I
they
always
do.
just ask the question like how much is this person worth not losing, and make sure that you are staying in lockstep with ensuring they're getting whatever that is, because I've seen I when I was going to quit originally one of my jobs, and then they came back with a Godfather offer to
Mhm.
stay for a
Yeah.
longer period of time. I was like, "Oh, this is the number." Or it's just like, "Oh, no, 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 we'll give you this amount of money." Why did it have to come to a point where I was going to quit? Why did it have to come to a point where it's like I'm ready to move on from this? Where it's like not like reaction mentality for obviously this is a little less about like the holidays, but the holidays and stuff that you do during that time like motivates people. So you might
Makes
as
a
well be
difference.
using every tactic that you have available to you. Like I really hate, and I know to some extent we do this. I really hate bread and circuses. For people who are unfamiliar with bread and circuses, it's from Roman times. Bread, they would give out free bread at the gladiator fights or at the chariot races or whatever was going on. So bread, here's some free food. Circuses, come enjoy some of the games for free to pacify people when they were getting upset. And so I see you brought up this before, where it's like, all right, here's a $20 gift card. This is what we're going to use to pacify you. And then
Yeah.
eventually that doesn't work anymore, and people just become more and more angry, or they become so numb to it that they don't even realize that they're being bred and circusized. Be careful with that one. Don't want to throw an M in there. I saw this at like one of my old jobs too, where it was we had to stay for extra time at this meeting, and then they gave everybody a $10 Amazon gift card for an hour of your time. And I remember the person saying, they used to not give us anything, so we should be happy with $10. I'm like, just because it's a little bit better than it was before doesn't mean that it's still shit. It can
Yes.
still be shit. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
passionate about all things.
Well,
Like, I'm very passionate about all things employees because like now being a business owner, I just don't get it. I'm like, how much money do you need? And like,
I
and then
know.
like billionaires will be like, well, I need $18 billion. I'm like, we're not talking about like billionaires here who can't move their wealth around super easily, but like, it's not that hard to be like, all right, cool. I guess everyone gets like, not everyone. Some people, top performers get this amount. Top performers get this amount.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yes. Yeah.
we
Well,
should
it's
do
like
an entire
that.
episode on bonuses.
Well, we will. Well, it was like that question, that listener question that we got about they're like, hey, I had it was a manager, and they said I had someone that was underneath me. We had a certain amount that the company said that everyone was supposed to be making, and I gave them that raise, so they were meeting at least the minimum. And then that dude's boss was like, why would you do that? Like, people work for what what they work for. And so it's like your situation too, where it's just like, you could have been paying me this the entire time, and I had to like threaten to quit in order to do that. Like, how about you pay me that, and then I'm not even thinking about quitting? Because you could have still just quit and just be like, no, I'm not valuable to you, so I'm out of here. So yeah, it's just, yeah, again, and not just sorry, not just bonuses, but we would be giving raises throughout the year to people. Like, yes, you wish as an employer that you could pay everyone what they're actually worth. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, you can't. But as your business is growing, be generous with your employees. Be the boss that you wish you would have had. That's all you have to do. It's really not that hard. And if you have to break it down to them, if they're asking for a raise and you have to break down like kind of the finances, like, hey, this is why we can only pay you this much. You can be transparent with that. It's, it's when the employees see the boss never there, going on vacations, buying new trucks, doing all this stuff, and they're like, hey, why can't I get a little of this pie? So yeah, just especially during the holidays, make sure you're taking care of your employees.
Yeah. And obviously, this is a little bit less about the holidays, more about taking care of employees. But I think like this is like the time where it's like you can really take care of people because it's one, I hate to say this, it's expected, like in a sense. And so you can
Mhm.
go above and beyond what those expectations are. The example that you gave your person who went somewhere else, who now it's like, my expectations are an honestly clean Christmas party. Not met. You can ruin other businesses' employee retention. Obviously, that person wasn't going to move back, but employee retention abilities by simply having another incentive added. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, you name it, added to the end of the year. But I'm going to take a
Yep.
hard pivot now, if I can, and go back to like clients. Would you do
Sure.
anything for clients? Like, would you like?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yes. Yes. So, all of our clients would get something, and that was dependent on how much money they were giving us. So our biggest clients, we would do these like just really, really nice baskets. We'd put them together. Our manager, she was the one that I would give $5,000 to, was just very talented at putting them together. And so we would put, and here's the other thing too. Here's a little secret. Get to know your clients. And so get to know what they like. If they like a certain, wine or whiskey or chocolate or whatever it is, get to know them, write that stuff down throughout the year. Or they have a favorite restaurant. And so we would give just a bunch of like kind of like your random stuff that you put into a like gift basket, but then we'd have personalized things that we would put into them as well that was specific for that client. And there was nothing better, dude, than when because some of our bigger clients, they had other products and services that they were buying. And so you would see the other things that they got, and there was nothing better than when we brought ours in, and it was just like 1,000 times better than whatever they got. And the funny thing about that is like there was our biggest client spent way more money on some of these other services, but we were always giving them like the best gifts. And they told us that. Like they're like, dude, you guys always just crush it with these gifts. It's just putting thought into it instead of just going on to like Amazon or wherever you get baskets from, like holiday baskets, and just shipping those to them. Like I would take it in, sit down with them, give it to them. have a conversation with them. But it's not just I never saw them and then I gave it to them at the end of the year. I had great relationships with all my clients, and that's another reason why we wouldn't lose them. But though, again, it was dependent on how much money we were getting from those clients, and there was a certain percentage we would kind of calculate in of like, all right, we're going to spend this much money on this basket, this holiday gift basket for that client is what we do.
Okay, so just a really quick business advice question that just came in hot off the press.
Ooh.
If your client's super into cigarettes, buy them cigarettes. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
They have a crippling cocaine addiction.
I've had lots and lots of clients, but there's this one who's just like an absolute chain smoker. I was just like, I should just get him a bunch of cigarettes. I don't know how that
Just
worked. I never did it because I didn't want to figure out
cigarettes.
the logistics. Can I just get them shipped?
Yeah.
But anyways, sorry. So get gifts for them. Would you ever like do like deals or anything like that? Would you do like holiday deals? Any sort of like marketing efforts that changed, or
Not
was it
for clients that we already had. I'm really and this is what I'm talking. I'm more talking about like the commercial side of it. We'd run deals for the residential side where it's like, hey, and that's when in the beginning when I was saying the holidays are great for making money, we would just have like these like carpet cleaning deals because everyone wants to have their house as clean as possible for a company that are going to be coming over. And so we'd run deals for that, and we would stay really, really busy up until that point. I mean, we were doing I remember we'd do carpet clean on like Christmas Eve sometimes, because they're having people coming in on Christmas. Now those ones, if it was Christmas Eve, there was a premium that they were being charged for that. But like probably a week or two before, we were always completely booked with all the clients that wanted stuff done for that. And here's the nice thing too. If you're completely booked and someone's desperate, like, hey, listen, we're completely booked, we can kind of do you after hours. There's going to be a premium for that. And so we would just stay so busy for those 2 weeks before Christmas, those 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And people would pay a premium. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll pay double. I just need to get this house cleaned or my carpets cleaned before people get here. And so you can kind of take advantage of that too. It's really like what you're willing to put up with. Like, you're like, I've been cleaning all day. I don't want to do this. And then we get someone that calls like, is there any way you could sneak me in? I'm like, how much is this worth to me? And so a job that might have been $250, I'm like, yeah, it's $700. And if they said yes, great. And if they said no, I didn't really care. But a lot of times they're like, sure, yep, just whatever. We need to get it done. So you could kind of take advantage of those situations as well during the holidays.
So obviously your business was like incredibly busy just naturally during that time. Let's pretend there's some like new startups that are listening to this podcast who are going through like trying to build up clientele. Would you recommend just trying to fill the schedule, or would you try some tactics like that where you pretend that you are full and see if you can not like, so for example, you wouldn't even have to give like, hey, it's our holiday deal. It's just like, hey, we're booked through whenever, but we could probably sneak you in at double, like whatever the price number is. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a gamble. It's a big gamble to do that. You could try it. Like, I would honestly, if in the beginning, I would just be doing, maybe raise your rates a little bit during the holiday season if you wanted to do that. But the like my competition, like the guys that I knew did a really good job as well. They were all booked out. So those customers that are calling are usually pretty desperate. And if you're new, they're probably not calling you first anyway. You're probably their third or fourth call. So you could do that. I would probably wouldn't double it like I was doing with Honestly Clean, but you could, if you want to try. I mean, if you have if you're getting a lot of calls and you keep raising and you do like a higher price and you keep getting a lot of no's, then probably shift tactics. But yeah, you could try that. At this point, you should know roughly what your competition is charging anyway. And so if you want to add a little extra to that, that's fine. But in the beginning, I was so desperate for getting
Clients.
jobs that I would do it for whatever.
Yeah, it's almost probably better, especially if you have like a good automation process where you are reaching out to first-time customers 6 months, 3 months, a year down the line to like do them again. It's probably better just to get the client in that situation. And the good news is you don't have to lower. You aren't competing against anyone really because they're all booked up. So you're just like, I can charge my normal rate They're gonna say yes to my normal rate. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
here
it's
what you could
fun.
do with that as well is you can you could say normally $400. We're going to charge you
Right.
300 when you typically would actually charge 200. You could kind of
And then you
angle it
set the
that way.
expectation with them that every one move, and make sure you note that, make sure you
Mhm.
annotate that, the next time that you reach out to them, like, "Hey, it's been a while since you got the cleaning. How's 300?" Like, normally it's 400, but we know you did it for 300. Like, you can just keep
We'll
perpetuating
keep
that
it
for
at
a
this
long time.
price. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the thing too is I mean, this is going back to just like kind of business 101. You should be reaching out to those clients. You should have a very robust list or detailed list of what your client, who your clients are, what they paid, and have some sort of system in place where you are calling them in advance that way you're keeping your schedule filled up. Don't ever assume your client is going to call you to set that up. Always assume they forget who you are, they forget your business name, and always reach out to them. I see that all the time where people, and I think maybe did I talk about this? I probably talked about this on another podcast. Maybe I didn't. Is like the dude that washed my windows one summer, and the next summer I was like, who was that guy? He did a really good job. It was a reasonable price, and I didn't know, I couldn't remember the name. And so someone else came, knocked, because we get it all the time where they knock and people are washing windows. And I just used the next company. So that dude who did a great job, all he would have had to do is like, hey, we cleaned your windows last summer. We'd like to get you on the schedule. When's a good time to get you on the schedule? And I would have been like, yeah, absolutely. Here's the day that works. So that dude missed out on, it was probably like $300 or whatever it was to clean the windows just because he didn't follow up with me. And so don't miss out on that type of revenue. Always follow up with your clients. Keep them loyal to you.
And then I think I have one last direction to go with this. End of year planning, like next year planning. Would you like be spending any time at the end of the year during the holidays, like getting ready, ramping up? Like what were the plans? What were like this is what like standard operating procedures was a couple of weeks ago. We're talking about this, we're talking about this, we're talking about this, etc.
Yeah, during the holidays, especially towards the end of the year, is when we would come up for goals and things for the next year. And so I would meet with my managers and supervisors and be like, hey, I mean, I wouldn't be like, we made $1.8 million last year. It would be, hey, this is where we're at. I would just do it based off the amount of clients that we had or the amount of buildings that we were cleaning. And I was like, hey, we have this many buildings. We want to get it up to this many buildings. And then I would know on the back end what that would mean revenue wise. And so that would just give them some motivation to get out there and help with that. And then also like even with like employee retention, like, hey, we lost this many employees last year. What are you guys seeing that we could improve on to keep employees around longer? Or, what's the main complaint from people leaving? And that's goes back to standard operating procedures as well, where we would do exit interviews. My manager would, and we would kind of break those down to see what the main reason people were leaving for and try and fix those. So it's just a lot of goal setting for the next year, which you absolutely should be doing because you need to have something that you're working towards. And so that's what we do. We would do all of the goal setting was towards the end of the year, and we would just as the next year came and we were going through it, we would check in on those goals all the time. So I'd do monthly meetings with my managers and just see where we're at. And that's I think every business has to do that in order to grow.
Any like tax planning crap, or was it pretty like,
Yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so the tax planning stuff would start, in fact, it's usually starts in like October. And so I would meet with my accountant. I'd have a meeting with him and just go over tax strategies and things like that. So that's the other thing too. Get a good CPA that can help you with legally paying the least amount of taxes possible is what you really want to do. Because if you have a really good CPA that knows all of the rules and kind of loopholes, they can save you a lot of money. So yeah, you definitely want to be meeting with a CPA and getting that all figured out for that year, and then also for the next year, because I would meet and it wasn't just like I met with my CPA once a year. I would meet with them, and then we would start strategizing for the next year as well. So we would come up towards the end of the year, we'd already made a strategy for that year, and just how are things going, where are we going with that, and then all right, what are we doing for next year? So there's so many different goals that you need to be setting and understanding, not just, revenue and employee retention, but taxes as well. How are you going to get the least amount of taxes that you have to pay? You have to strategize all that with someone who knows what they're doing.
If there's one that you can share, like what's an example of like a strategy that like you didn't realize was a thing, where like you're talking with your CPA, like, hey, for next year, we need to do X, Y, or Z thing, or this, but before the end of the year, we need to do X, Y, or Z thing.
A lot of that was, is there any new equipment you need to buy? Almost all the time. And it was always a good problem to have, because there was always some sort of equipment you could buy, or upgrading your computers, or doing those types of things, or even like the bonuses you're giving out at the end of the year that can be tax write-offs, doing all of those types of things. The main thing was just was tax write-offs. That was probably the main thing. And then also, what I did not understand was, when I was first started my business, I was like, oh, okay, so if I buy a new work van that's $80,000, I don't have to pay $80,000. That's not how tax write-offs work. It's usually $80,000 that you spend, and then like 15% of that is written off. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but it's not a 1-for-1. So that's probably something that people need to understand. A lot of people are like, oh, I can just go buy a new car and write it off. But there's a lot of things that go into that. It's not just, there are specifications with what type of vehicle you can buy, how it's actually being used. It's not just, I can buy this and write it off. Like, oh, I can go buy a watch, and I'm going to write that off because I wear the watch when I'm working, or whatever it is. So again, this is why you really need to be in good communications with a good CPA who can tell you what you actually need to do. But that was probably the main one, is because in the beginning, like I said, I just thought it was 1-to-1. I spend this much money, it's that much less money I have to pay in taxes because it's a write-off, and that's all you have to do. But there's just a lot of strategy. And then like one of the other strategies is like writing off your a portion of your house. You just make it an office. Like if you have a room, and that's where you're doing all of your, planning for your business, you're sending your invoices, doing this, and this, you can write off that portion of your home for a tax write-off. So that's really nice too. That was something that was cool when I found that out. The main thing is just write-offs. That was probably the main thing of understanding how that actually worked, and then strategizing for that, because we were growing and growing and growing. And it was great, because I'll never forget my my CPA, Brian. He's like, dude, you got to go buy some stuff. And that was one point, he's like, do you need a new truck? I was like, yeah. I mean, I'm not a person who's like constantly buying new whatever. Like I was like, my truck's fine. He's like, go buy a new truck. He's like, you need to buy a new truck, and then we'll depreciate that over time. Like, all this, I'm not going to pretend like I understand all the CPA talk.
Just like, I trust you, him. Brian.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Like, I trust you. I know you know what you're talking about. But that was a cool thing where he's like, dude, you have to go buy a new truck. It's like, you need to go get a new van. He knew all my finances, so he knew how well we were doing. And so he's like, to mitigate a lot of these taxes, go buy a new truck, go get some new equipment, go do this. I was like, sweet. So that was always cool.
Yeah. Any other things end of the year related that you feel like we didn't touch on? Employees, prepping for next year, clients?
No, I think we touched most of it. It's to take advantage of the holidays, and just be willing to work. I mean, I know it sucks sometimes where as a 9-to-5, you're used to putting in, you're like, hey, I'm taking a week off for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it is. And it starts when we're like in school, right? You're just so used to like, I have a week off for Thanksgiving, I have 2 weeks off for Christmas. And so it's almost like ingrained in you that you are owed that. You need to be able to take that time off, get that out of your head, and understand that you need to be working. That's money, because guess what? A lot of other people aren't willing to work it either. And so if you're the person that's willing to work it, you can make that much more money because you are willing to work it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we do have some listener submitted life advice, damn it, business advice that is holiday related. So here we go. All right. Listener submitted business advice. Number one. Ooh, nice one. Do you want the short one or the long one first?
Let's do the
Like
long
the
one
long one's
first.
not that long. Sorry, what?
No, yeah, long one first.
Long one. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Aaron and Alex. My employees have requested a separate holiday party for the interns because last year an intern won the grand prize, courtside tickets to a Bucks game. I'm assuming that's the Milwaukee Bucks. Interns only got one ticket for the entire raffle, and full-time employees had 50 each. There are about 20 different prizes. Okay, nice. A lot of prizes, so they can, I assume they just put the tickets in the prizes that they want, and then, okay. And on the other hand, these team members requesting this tell me that interns are essential for their departments to function. The need for interns for them to do a great job and the request to alienate them bothers me a little bit. But I also get full-time employees should probably be the ones winning major prizes. Let me know what you would do.
Oh boy. Yeah. This is going to sound really bad. I would make sure the best employees were always winning the best prizes. Like, you don't want to have like that bottom 10% employee win the courtside tickets, or the intern who might not even be there. What a
But that's not
terrible
even an
ROI.
intern thing. It's like you should rig it so that only your best
Yes.
employees get stuff. Okay.
I know, and it sounds we're probably gonna get I'm gonna get roasted for this, but like, if you're really thinking of like ROI for those types of prizes, and this is why we would just give them bonuses. So if they didn't win some big prize, they knew they were still getting a great cash bonus. But I would totally rig it. I would rig it so my best employees always won. And I wouldn't tell them, hey, you're going to get the courtside tickets. And there might be, there might be a handful of great employees. And so you could make it randomized so one of the great employees actually gets it. But I would make sure the great employee got the courtside tickets. 100%.
I guess my question would then be, would you ever do a raffle for a holiday party?
Oh, for the interns?
No,
Party?
no. The question was like if you were like setting up this scenario, like it sounds like they do a raffle. Like, would you do a raffle at all?
I would do a raffle at different levels. So I wouldn't do a completely different party, but I'm like, here's the raffle for the interns. Here's the raffle for the people that have been here for a year. Here's the raffle for the people who've been here for 5 years, and go from there. And then they could, I mean, talk about motivation to get those interns to stay. They're like, oh, cool. Our raffle was $150 gift card or something. Well, at least I got something. Holy crap. If I'm here for 5 years, I could win, courtside tickets or, a vacation. And so like, I want to work for this company. This company is awesome. But you want to be rewarding the correct people. So that's how I would do raffles. I would have different kind of levels to the raffle.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, it's like one of those things where, because I assume this is like the hard thing. If your intern is one of your best employees, they're probably no longer an intern. They probably have been hired on and are now a full-time employee. So that probably doesn't exist. But to be fair, I remember sometimes where I was working before, like the goal was to keep interns for as long as possible so that you can pay them less and get as much out of them as possible. And you'd only elevate them once someone else had left and a spot had opened up for it. So I'm coming from a background where it was like, we're building our company on your backs, and we're going to be doing it for $10 an hour. So like, I don't know if I have an opinion. Also, I was one of those employees one time. One of my first jobs I ever worked at, it was an auction. And so like I'm going to make up numbers. I don't remember. Mine was like, I had like $50 in the auction, and then all full-time employees, based on how long you'd been there, it'd be like $1,000 because you've been here for 10 years, 2,000. I'm making up numbers.
Sure.
And I won the grand prize, which was a video iPod. I know that people are upset about that, but at least with that one, that's more of like, you take the risk on bidding on the random item. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you have all right, item A, item B, item C. So I guess I have
only $25 max that you could spend on these. You got a video iPod from the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you this many
This
dollars.
many dollars worth. I love
Yeah, but
Christmas because
so to answer the question, I don't know if we actually did. I would not do a separate party. I would just separate the raffle to different things.
yeah, I think that's probably better than the way that the company I was at too, where it's like, all right, now someone gets 50. Like you need to eliminate some of the randomness that can happen. Like
Right.
because I just based on this thing that you're saying, obviously your employees are pissed off, and
Yes.
you don't want to piss off your employees. I don't know if they're your top performers or not, but you don't want to piss them off. All
Correct.
right. Number 2, nice and simple. Yep, that even says it. Hi, Unsexy Businessmen. I'll keep it simple. We had a good year. Congratulations. How do you do bonuses for all employees? For all employees, how do you do? Oh my gosh, how do you do bonuses? Equal for all employees? Different based on merit, or a combo? Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely don't do equal. I mean,
No.
that's what I said. Like it was based off of performance, and that's how it always should be. Performance and longevity. If someone's been there a really long, even if I had like an employee that had been there for 5 years who was doing pretty good, and then I had some like just kick ass employee that's been there for a year and a half, that's better than the 5 year employee. Um, I
So
would, I
100%.
would, I don't. That never happened to me. I don't know how I would do
Right,
that
because you would
you want to
probably
make
you're probably keeping badasses, and like you probably were
yes.
losing non-badasses pretty fast. So like inevitably, the people who are there longer for you, at least because you do everything merit based, are probably pretty great.
And here's the other thing. I never, like, when I was doing bonuses, I wasn't doing this in front of everyone. I would just like discreetly give them like, here's your card. Don't open it until you get home. And the card with the envelope had a bunch of money in it. And that's how we do it. So I wasn't in front of the entire company like, hey, and Margot gets $5,000. Time for everyone else to feel horrible that you only got 500. Like I kept it pretty discreet. But no, all right. But to answer your question, you should absolutely do bonuses based off of merit, 100%.
Yeah. Did you ever have anyone? Did you ever anyone ever share like the bonus amount that they got with like another employee?
No, because the thing was, I would tell them too, was like, you keep this quiet or you're not getting a bonus next year. Like, I was like, this causes drama. I mean, would have I actually not given a bonus? Probably not. I probably still would have done something. But the veiled threat was at least there. Like, you got to keep this quiet, or if it's not going to be like, the bonus will not be as big as next year. This is all just for you. Don't talk about it. And so no one wanted to lose that bonus. So no one talked about it.
And I imagine like, because I would share my salary with people all the time at like one of my old jobs, but that was more of a like you could like, the environment that was fostered that created people who felt like they were underappreciated would like ask questions like that. And whenever anyone would ask me, I would never not tell them, because I'm just like, and guess what? One person who I told ended up getting a raise from it, because they were being paid. I think it was like, this is why, sorry, this is like so different. This is why understanding what is success and what is not, like what the goals and responsibilities of every employee being very specific is like so important, because then people aren't surprised. Like like if somebody did reveal that, only a shitty person would be like, oh, I didn't get $5,000. Be like, oh no, it's
Right.
because you're really, really awesome. And like you succeed at doing all of these things.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I didn't care if people told about like what they were making per hour. If they wanted to tell someone and someone got offended, I could justify why that person
Easily.
was making that amount of money. Like, I had no problem. If I had an employee, which I don't think ever happened, if I had an employee that came up to me like, hey, I noticed that she's making $25 an hour and I'm making 16. I don't think that's fair. With every employee, I could break down exactly why they were making that much money. And so if they wanted to have a conversation about it, I had no problem. And then I'd be like, you're at 16, they're at 25. This is what you need to do in order to get to that 25 as well. So
Right.
it would be
Clear.
more of a constructive thing anyway.
Yeah. It's like there needs to be a clear path for whatever it is.
Sure. Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Well, remember, as always, submit your questions on YouTube comments or send them into unsexybusinessmen at gmail.com. Once again, that's unsexybusinessmen at gmail.com. Thanks everyone for joining us. Go have a great
Happy
rest of the week.
holidays.
Happy holidays. This is probably coming out around like Thanksgiving or the week before. I don't remember. But either way, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Unsexy Businessmen. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Now go get to work.